over to Courtney.
Okay, we're the group of 6A, and I'm Courtney, Jess, Elliot, Kaiser and Shaf. And our topic was if Australia is becoming more or less compassionate. I did the environmental side, Jess did the immigrant side, Elliot did the welfare,
sexual side,
and foreign aid. Are there any questions?
Okay, we've got Lisa.
Do you think Australia is becoming more or less compassionate?
We concluded that, in a sense, yes and no. Like, there are some sides that they show so much compassion and so much passion in the sense of the welfare and, you know, supporting their Australians, but in a sense, no to like immigrants. They haven't shown compassion towards them. So it's kind of like going both ways.
Had somebody sitting behind you?
You said that they were cutting.
Sorry, could you speak up loudly?
You said that they were cutting foreign aid by 4.5 billion. But what was the foreign aid budget before the cuts that they were?
Before the cuts, it was 5.2 billion a year. So collectively over the 4 years, they're going to cut down 4.5 billion. So that's, 5.2 billion times 4 minus 4.5 billion.
That's got some good maths. That's great. Other comments and questions? Yes, over this side.
I've got a question. In terms of the federal budget, just handed down, for the aspect of compassion that you guys researched, how do you think, how there's a lot of uproar about it, how would you guys, do you know what I mean?
What do we think of it?
Yeah, people were oh, you're cutting Medicare.
As you know, it still needs to be voted through. But if it is continuing, but say for Clive Palmer, who's voting no to everything, if he comes through, it probably will be, because when I made this and a lot of my research before was prior to this budget being released, and before this, it was saying that Australia was becoming more compassionate in the area of welfare and things like that, giving more money to those with disadvantaged disabilities. But after the budget, it seems to be cutting back quite a lot. So you could say it's maybe transitioning towards maybe being less compassionate now, but it's still in speculation in its early days yet. So maybe definitive answer probably isn't.
I think people forget that the government is actually in debt, and they're also trying to work out of that, but still give people what they want. So these cutbacks, in some sense, affect us, but they're trying to get the government out of debt.
Okay, so we've got a couple of different views there. Other questions from the audience? Yes, Michelle.
Who did most of the video? Good job, that's very nice. Yeah, because the transition from the music is all quite smooth, so
That's all right. It's nice to have some positive comments like that. Any other comments, positive or otherwise, or questions? We've still got a couple of minutes, so it could be you sitting down here. Vale's got a question.
Did you identify differences in new generations, like our generation as opposed to Generation X and the baby boomers in terms of compassion?
What I did find is in 2003, we were the country's second most favourably disposed towards immigration. And now we've got 67% of people who think that refugees should be processed offshore, and only 25% of people who think that immigrants have the right to be resettled here. So I guess I could say that from that statistic alone, we could see that our attitudes towards immigrants at least are changing over time. And we are definitely, I suppose, taking a turn towards becoming more uncompassionate in that way.
Also in regards to spending on youth, on welfare and things like that, especially with the new budget, it's going to be cut quite drastically. And over time, it's been remained constant how much, opposed to people like families and stuff like that. So you could say our generation, or coming generations, are somewhat feeling less compassion opposed to those earlier generations.
Yeah, for my case, I actually did sexual assault. Alright, from 2015, there was actually a 60% increase on those kind of free website, application where people want to actually go on board and ask questions on how to actually how to be safe, especially for women, because they could get raped or anywhere on the streets. So there was actually like people not actually putting money into it, but creating a website for a hotline for them. So in other words, even though there's a contradiction that there's some compassion in more areas, but less in others. But for my case, where I actually studied, yeah, there was actually more in the rise. Yeah.
Okay, look, we'll have to wrap it up. I'm sorry for cutting the question short, but let's say thanks to 6B for Group 6A.
Yeah.